Zweig Group invites all AEC industry leaders to the 2024 AEC Small Business and Entrepreneurship Forum, the premier event for small firms in the AEC sector. Experience innovative strategies and insights on May 21st, crafted by Zweig Group's industry experts. Engage in keynotes and interactive sessions focused on recruitment, retention, and business growth. Join Zweig Group for this unique networking opportunity and take your business to new heights. Secure your spot today and be part of the AEC industry's future. Visit zweiggroup.com for more information. The Zweig Group team looks forward to welcoming you.
Welcome to the Zweig Letter Podcast, putting architectural, engineering, planning, and environmental consulting experts straight talk in your ear. These podcasts deliver great interviews with industry leaders and Zweig Group's 3 decades of invaluable research, leadership, management, marketing, client, and HR advice directly to you, free of charge. The Zweig Letter Podcasts let you develop personally and professionally, wherever you are.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of the Zweig Letter Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I'm here with you today with another special episode. I wanted to bring to you several of the breakout sessions and other keynote addresses from our Hot Firm event this year in Dallas, Texas. Took place in September of 2018, depending on when you're listening to this podcast. But there's just some great content as I go through and listen to all the different sections that we've had on. And today I want to share with you some feedback from some of the best firms to work for. We did a best firm to work for panel. And we also do a Best Firm to Work For award, which is an award that firms in the design industry, their employees give feedback on their firms through a survey, and that survey is then graded, and we use those grades to determine who are the best firms to work for and what separates them from other firms in the design industry that maybe aren't the best firms to work for. I guess that's the easiest way to put it, but there's some great information there. We get a chance to dive deep and into the survey itself. We get these guys on this panel, along with our own Kyle Ahern, who is part of our awards group and does so many amazing things here at Zweig Group. Kyle is the host for this panel, and we had some outstanding individuals that were all either number 1 or number 2 in their respective categories there for Best Firm to Work For. And those individuals included Brian Bowers, who is president of Bowers and Kubota Consulting, which was number 1 Best Firm to Work For in architecture and number 1 Best Firm to Work For in civil, and number 2 Best Firm to Work For in multidiscipline. Paul Grosser, president and CEO of PW Grosser Consulting, which was number 1 in environmental. Laura Nick, who is the corporate communications leader for Garver, which is a design firm based out of Little Rock, Arkansas. They were number 1 Best Firm to Work For in multidiscipline. And Brent Wright, who is the CEO of Wright Engineers, and they were number 1 Best Firm to Work For in the structural engineering category. And this session runs about 60 minutes, but it's chock full of really great information, great tips and advice on how to create an atmosphere, how to create a culture to ultimately have a best firm to work for. And it's something that I think every design firm should endeavor to reach. And it doesn't happen by accident. It's not happenstance, but it's something that you achieve over time. That you, listen to your employees, figure out exactly what they want, and figure out a way to give it to them, of course, without bankrupting the company, but at the same time making sure that the promises that you make to the general public, that you stand true to your mission, that you stand true to each and every individual that's within your organization, and that you can hold your head high saying that you're able to, you create an amazing environment for your people. And I think a lot of that plays into it. I just had a chance recently to go visit with a firm based out of Texas, an outstanding design firm. It's an architectural firm, focuses primarily in the K through 12 industry, and I was blown away by their culture. I was blown away by the way that they interact with each other, the way that they care about each other. They took a couple of days off to have a retreat for the whole company where everyone was invited, and they didn't have to take PTO or anything like that. And the company really, poured into them with a lot of outstanding sessions and panels and keynote speakers, and just continue to develop their people. And as I talked to each and every individual, as many as I could talk to, there were over 300 people there. I got the sense that, they like coming to work every day. And there's just the attitude of the company from the CEO on down makes for a great environment. So I think in terms of ultimately becoming a best firm to work for, it starts at the top, obviously, but it works its way down from there. And I think, kind of listening to Brian and Paul and Laura and Brent and the rest of the participants of this Best Firm to Work For panel, I think you'll get an idea of just what a little bit of what goes into making a best firm to work for. If you're endeavoring to be there, if you want to get there and learn more about the Best Firm to Work For process and how your firm can participate in 2019, at the end of this, please just feel free to reach out to us once you've listened to this podcast, and A, let us know what you think about the podcast, but B, just shoot an email to me, to rwilburn@zweigroup.com. I'll put you in touch with the right people. We'll get you set up for 2019 and see if you can't be a best firm to work for, or if you at least can't figure out what are the challenges that you're dealing with internally. Sometimes we just don't ask the right questions. And I think the Best Firm to Work For survey is one way of doing that, and maybe figuring out where your areas of improvement lie. We all have room for improvement. Even these firms that are Best Firm to Work For panels weren't always best firms to work for. So why don't you take a listen to what they've done and see if some of that could be helpful to you within your space, within your organization, and how you can ultimately become a best firm to work for. I think this is certainly an achievement that we should all be shooting for as organizations in the design industry. You want to be a best firm to work for. A, it's going to help you attract and retain the best talent possible. And it's going to create a better work environment, which means better project management, which means better delivery of high quality projects, high quality designs, and ultimately high quality outcomes for our clients. And with that, let's get on to the show. Here is the Best Firm to Work For panel from Hot Firm 2018 in Dallas, Texas, at the Fairmont Hotel. Our own Kyle Ahern is hosting this panel, and even I, yours truly, had a chance to chime in on some interesting tidbits of information on what some firms are doing to attract and retain the best talent when it comes to one retention tool, which would be figuring out ways to help pay off student loan debt. And I go more into it in the actual session itself. So take a listen. It's about an hour long. Break it up. Listen to half of it now. Listen to the other half later when you're on your treadmill. And then again, hit me up and let me know what you think. We really appreciate you checking out this Zweig Letter podcast. As always, we always have great things for you. Get a free copy, a free issue of the Zweig Letter. You can download that every week right on your computer. Comes out like clockwork every Monday at 12 noon. You can check out the Zweig Letter podcast, the Zweig Letter rather, by visiting zweiggroup.com. Click on the Zweig Letter icon and subscribe for free. We promise we won't spam you. We'll only send you great information. It's the one of, if not the longest running design industry newsletters. And I'm proud to be a part of what the Zweig Group has been doing for several years, and the Zweig Letter is no exception to that. So check out the Best Firm to Work For panel from Hot Firm, and I hope you enjoy it.
So welcome to the Best Firms to Work For panel. My name is Kyle Ahern. I'm the awards manager at Zweig Group. If you have participated in any of our awards, I'm sure I've harassed you a little bit. With me today, we have 4 firms that each placed first in their respective categories. From Wright Engineers, we have Brent Wright, who was the #1 structural engineering firm. From Bowers Consulting, we have Paul Grosser. From Bowers Kubota Consulting, we have Brian Bowers. They were #1 in civil engineering and architecture. P.W. Grosser was #1 in environmental services. And then at the end, we have Laura Nick from Garver, who was #1 in multidiscipline. So I'm going to let them let them give you a little bit more information about their firm, and then we'll go ahead and get started with some questions.
Brent Wright, Wright Engineers. We're structural engineers. I like to tell everybody we're just humble structural engineers trying to make the world a better place for all of you. And we have 4 offices. We're in Las Vegas, Phoenix, Irvine, Salt Lake City. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary, and we're licensed in all 50 states, do projects in just about every state.
Paul Grosser with P.W. Grosser Consulting. We're about a 75-person firm located primarily on Long Island. We have offices in New York City, smaller offices in Syracuse and now Albany, as well as Seattle, a little off the beaten track for us. The elevator speeches, we're a broad-based environmental firm, so we do a lot of water and wastewater work on the engineering side. We do phase 1, phase 2 site investigations, Superfund sites, brownfields redevelopment. We also have niches in hospital waste management, geothermal heating and cooling, and compliance for fueling systems at airports. So that's it.
Brian Bowers with Bowers Kubota. We're a 200-person architectural engineering firm, kind of specialized mostly in project and construction management, based on Oahu, which is our office is right outside Honolulu, Hawaii, which is the most populous island. We have offices on all the Hawaiian islands and really concentrate our business in Hawaii and in the Pacific Rim.
So I'm trying not to be intimidated just sitting up here next to these 3 guys. I'm the only one that my name is not on the door, and CEO is not after is not my title. So I'm happy to be here to represent Garver. My name is Laura Nick, and I'm the corporate communications leader. Garver is a civil. I want to say we're 99. That's my biggest selling point right now. Is we're turning 100 next year. We're based in Little Rock, Arkansas, but we have 27 offices and 575 employees now. But heavy civil infrastructure is our focus.
Okay, thank you very much. So first question, each of your firms placed first in your respective categories. Now we hope with all of the information that comes from this Best Firms to Work For award, not only for us but for your firms, that you can continue to get better. So as #1 Best Firms to Work For, how do you manage the process of taking the employee survey data and continuing to improve your firm?
Sure. So we every year, then when we get the results back, then we look at we track like the big things that we heard. Last year was really the first year that something popped up that we weren't aware of. So we started getting some comments about our employees not being satisfied with our maternity and paternity leave policy, and we never really heard that from our employees before. So that was the thing we started looking at how we could do better last year. We thought it was really just an issue of communication. And then this year, our CEO and COO went on a town hall tour of all of our offices, and then we heard it again really strongly. Like after the first 3 or 4 of our 27 visits, then our employees were voicing their concern about that policy. And so because we'd already had the Best Firms survey results, then off the bat we said, hey, okay, they've been talking about this really hard for a year. We need to do something about it. And so Dan and Brock, our CEO immediately said, okay, we're listening and we're going to come in and make this a better policy. And then our employees said, hey, thank you for doing what you do and listening to our feedback. So I think it's really important that we communicate, yes, we're listening to what you're saying, and here's what we're doing about it.
Kind of similar to what Laura said. So we actually, if you compete for the best places to work and you're not purchasing that open response report from Kyle and his people, I'd highly, highly, highly recommend that, because in that it'll have very detailed answers to all the questions, and the most important ones are what makes this a best place to firm, or what doesn't make this a best place firm. What one question would you ask the CEO? And when you digest that, and we've done this, I think this is our 8th year we've competed for this award, and we've been honored to do fairly well in it. There's a lot of feedback there, and kind of similar to Laura said, we track that and kind of see if there's any trends, and 1 or 2 people saying it, not a big deal. If 4 or 5 people say it, then that might be a problem. And so I think if you're a best place to work, you got to have a culture of continuous improvement. So I think it's already ingrained in your culture anyway, and listening to the employees. And then we hold twice a year meetings. In addition to this, we also compete for the best places to work in Hawaii, which is a little different survey, but the good thing is they're exactly 6 months apart. So we have 2 data points every year. They ask slightly different questions, but both run by the same firm, and it's similar criteria. 75% is really what the employees say that make you a best place to work firm, and then 25 from what the company's policies are. So we back brief the employees, say, here's what we heard, and then even if there's something ridiculous, like we always get the term, let's have a nap room. Well, we ain't gonna have a frickin' nap room, but at least you tell them that. And so you're listening to, like Laura said, you're listening to them, and you report back, and with a reason. And so I think they just want to be heard. And then if it's a good idea, then we'll go and implement it. So I think that whole idea of a continuous improvement culture is something that you want ingrained in your company.
I think I'll play off Brian's comments on the continuous improvement. I think that's probably while we're all sitting up here. We're always looking to improve the employee experience, really. We're in the process right now of reviewing our health care, and we pay for 100% health care, whether it's single family or whatever. And we're trying, it's a lot of money, and we're trying to save some. And I think we're going to achieve it and still maintain the employee experience, and they'll get complete health coverage on our dime, but we're just changing a little different system, and we're taking a little more risk with the insurance rather than the insurance company, but we think we can save a lot of money because we have a pretty young and healthy group. So that's the kind of thing that we look at. We try and look at it from the employee's point of view. The other aspect we always score very highly on is just integrity and truthfulness, so that they feel they're working for a firm that's telling them the truth and working with clients who are truthful clients and clients you really want to work for. We talk about improving the quality of our clients all the time. So those kind of things. So we're always kind of looking from their point of view as well as ours, and trying to help them feel comfortable.
Oh, I would definitely agree. If you don't get the survey results, you should get it. Very helpful. I think every firm that's trying to be a good firm probably is going to get mostly positive feedback, but it's those small things that the small comments, not the nap room, but other comments that can really be helpful to maybe make a little improvement. Some of our feedback that we saw we had areas to improve was on communication. So we implemented better, more formal one-to-ones where every employee has a mentor that they can meet with regularly. And, one was about maybe some paid time off for maternity and paternity leave. So we looked into that and realized that was something that maybe we were behind the curve on. So there seems to always be something that you can add, and that report is a great way to find that. And then on top of that, you can only throw so many benefits and perks at your employees if you're not making money. So along with, I guess, nap rooms or whatever, if that's what somebody really wants. and adding great benefits, you got to make sure that you're bringing in the projects that will allow you to grow and be profitable and keep your employees interested and engaged and excited.
Yeah, I think, you all are all number ones, but continuous improvement, I think, has been a trend across the board here. So, and I'd like to just say, if anyone has any questions for any of our panelists, feel free to raise your hand. We'll get you the mic, and you can go ahead and ask them. It's a pretty open forum. So now moving on, recruitment and retention continues to be the number one issue firms are facing. There's I guess you could call it a talent shortage right now. So what are your firms doing to make sure, one, you're recruiting, and then two, retaining those key employees, making sure that they aren't wanting to go somewhere else? And we'll start with you, Brent.
Well, this is a true story. You're probably going to think I made this up, but we hired 3 brand new graduates from schools we weren't recruiting at all. And when they came to, and they were top recruits, and when we talked to them, the reason they found us is because we were listed on the Zweig Best Firms list. So we would never have gotten them any other way. We weren't looking at all in those schools. So, and they've turned out to be fantastic. So right off the bat, if you're looking for new recruits, and each of them told us that they were on Google searching for best firms to work for. That was their criteria. So, and then just one more thing as far as retention. One day, there's an engineer in our office overheard a phone call across the cubicle, and the conversation was something like, "No, I'm not interested. No one else in our firm is interested. We're number one in the nation." So that's a great thing. If you're listed by a reputable list as being a good firm to work for, it goes a long way, both to get new people and to keep your people, because as you all know, everybody's after our people.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time on recruiting, and it's part of the networking that we do as an organization. So we've got a relationship with Stony Brook University, and I'm on their Civil Engineering Advisory Committee. We're doing providing projects for their senior capstone projects. So we have an engineer work with their students. So we have this relationship, and they know about us, and we also advertise that we're number one on the best firms to work for. So that's good, and we also recruited a number of other colleges. We're also finding now, the networking of getting our people out, involved with professional societies, as far as recruiting project managers and the like, we're being pretty successful. We're recruiting very senior people, and it's a competitive situation out there, but we're finding we're taking advantage of other firms that are failing. We're seeing firms failing for lack of transition strategy. Either they just, we had one firm, one partner was 87, the other was 73 or something, or 83 or something, big numbers, and the one guy gets indicted and the company just kind of implodes, and we start pulling some people off of that. The other firm, we just hired someone yesterday where there was no ownership transition, and through a lack of transparency, there wasn't any indication that there was. She said they might have gone to some venture capitalists or something for a little bit, but she didn't know. So there was this lack of transparency. And we were able to pick her up, essentially at no increase in pay or anything else. She came right over and she's bringing a bunch of clients. So being out there, being known as a great firm to work for is really important, and just taking advantage of these opportunities when they come up.
In addition to the Best Place to Work, which is a great recruiting tool in itself, like Chad said this morning, our biggest source of new recruits is the employees. And if you don't have some kind of incentive for when employees refer somebody, a monetary incentive. I would highly encourage you to do that. We started that a few years ago, and that's been very, very successful. And it's kind of a tiered process where, the harder to find positions are paid a little bit more than the others. And it has to be significant. It can't be like $500 or something. So we do that, and we pay it in 2 increments at 90 days to make sure the person is still there, and then again at a year. So I wouldn't give it to them all up front either. I would at least wait at 90 days. So that's been very successful. Hawaii's kind of a unique market because it's kind of closed, high barriers to bringing in new people. So we found that to be good, although we have used some recruiters in the past, marginally successful. On the retention side, I would highly encourage you to just make sure that you're always looking at your benefit programs. And it's not a bad idea to if you're not collecting the data from the best place to work, is survey your employees about what benefits are important to them. Because the market's changing, and it's not just pay; it's obviously total compensation, and kind of similar to some other firms. We pay 100% of people's health care. That's including the family, which is a huge expense. But that's what keeps a lot of our people. When people have tried to leave, a lot of firms have tried to, they'll come back and tell us, which is always encouraging. I got recruited by this person, and thanks for letting us know. And a lot of times they'll say, yeah, they were offering a little bit more money, but they're going to make me pay for my health care, et cetera, et cetera. And when they look at the total package, our package is far superior, although the pay may be slightly less. So constantly look at that. The other thing is the onboarding process in the recruiting or in the retention piece. So once you recruit somebody, you want to make sure that when they get there, they feel at home, they're engaged, and we assign a coach, which I think is kind of helpful. Make sure that their first day goes well, and then checking up with them for 2 to 3 months to make sure that whole process is satisfactory.
So I think we never stop recruiting, and what I mean by that is we're constantly still pursuing our own employees, constantly communicating with them. So I came to Garver to start the recruiting program. They were a 225-person firm then, and they had all these great assets. I mean, that's why even Garver showed up in my Google search, because they had all these great assets. But once I got there, I realized they weren't talking about them, and they weren't letting their employees talk about them. So they were selling to potential hires as hard as they were selling to potential clients. And so one thing that we did, I think that really helped us in the height of our growth, which I still maybe we're still in, but was lining up our recruitment team and our HR team very, very closely with our communications and marketing team, so that they were all saying the same messages. So whatever we were saying to our employees, we then saw them go out and say to our clients, and our clients would say, oh yeah, well, we heard about your great thing at Garver, we heard about your big annual meeting, heard about your awesome gym, and then they say, oh, you got the happiest employees. Everybody's so happy at Garver. We see what you're doing. And guess what? Then they give us more work. So that's the cycle. So we keep pumping all this investment into our current employees and our potential employees, because then that cycle keeps coming back around to us. And that's the best part of our recruitment and retention tools.
Great. Well, I heard a couple of you mention, compensation and benefits packages. So, Brian, I'll start with you on this one. How is your firm making sure that you're staying competitive as far as total compensation, base or pay, as well as benefits? How are you making sure you're competitive with the market?
Thank you. Good question. So I know there's national surveys out there, and I think Zweig does a good job of kind of compiling information. So we're looking at that. What's more important for us, though, is, once again, because Hawaii is kind of unique, as I'm sure all the other places you work are unique, is the local surveys. And the local chapter in Hawaii of American Consulting Engineers Council does a good job of doing surveys every year. So we're constantly looking at that. And then emphasizing again to the employees that it's not just about salary. We give twice a year bonuses. We have a lot of other benefits, a 401k match, we're an ESOP, so that's all important. But like I said, the healthcare piece is huge with our employees, and we don't discriminate. So even secretaries or our administrative people get fully paid health care for their entire families, to include medical, dental, drug, etc. So it's constantly, once again, looking at the marketplace, where are we in comparison to everybody else, and then adjusting your programs to make sure that, you're competitive with the other firms out there. And then communicating at the employees is that, a lot of them don't understand that the healthcare piece is, $1,500 per employee if it's a family, something like that. A lot of them have no idea that. So we put out a brochure and says, these are all the benefits you're getting in addition to your salary. And I think they're frankly shocked at that. That's what you're getting in total compensation. So concentrating on the total compensation piece, versus just the salary, I think is very, very, very important.
Yeah, we do the same, very much so. We're always selling total compensation. We're not selling salary. And every year, each employee gets a total compensation sheet that says, this is how much I made in salary, this is how much your health insurance was, this is how much your ESOP contribution was made by the company, this is how much tuition reimbursement was if they had that. We have there was a particular program in the county we're in to attract and keep young people and make them homeowners. And the company would give a loan, essentially it's a forgivable loan to the employee, and through the county, it would parlay into about $70,000 for a new house. It would allow them like $35,000 towards a down payment and another $35,000 towards improving the home before they moved in. A huge benefit that most people don't get to see. Happened to be the location we were in, helped it out. But those kind of things, we would put that down there, and when we attract new employees, we don't give them, this is your salary, and it's for 40 hours or whatever. We'll go through, this is your salary, and this is what you'll get for your health insurance, and this is how much the other benefits are and what their value is, so that they can see what they're getting. And we're hiring people for less salary than they're being offered, but when they look at the total compensation package, it's significantly different, and we're much better. And we've had people take pay cuts to come to us, largely for the improved benefits and a nice place to work. We've had people leave firms because they get great big bonuses or great big raises, and then all of a sudden they were asked to do a lot more than they had bargained for, and maybe was pushing the envelope too much for the individuals, and they said, nah, I really shouldn't be doing this. So, like I said, total compensation was where it's all at.
Yeah, I wish there was a website you could just go to and it would tell you exactly what to pay somebody. We look at different surveys. There are all kinds of surveys, as you know, and gives us data points. We get more data points when we talk to our employees or when we're trying to recruit. It's an easy way to find out what the market will bear. But I think there's always somebody willing to pay more. So that's why I think it's so important that in addition to educating your employees on their total compensation, there's all the intangibles, a great place to work, a feeling of belonging, security, a feeling that their career is got potential for advancement. Those are all, you can't put a number or a price on those, but those are, I think, really important, and feeling like they're part of something that's bigger and more important than just going to a job and getting a paycheck. So that's, I don't know a magic answer to that.
Great points.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing, everyone is extremely busy with work, and from some of the stats that Chad said, it's hard to find time to reinvest in our companies. Well, one thing employees really like is the investment firms make in their training. So how does your firm or each individual firm up here, how do you handle balancing busy schedules with making sure that your employees are on top of their training or are getting all the training that either they want or that they need?
That was actually one of the feedback items we got from the survey last year. Was some people wanted a little more formalized training. We do the usual lunch and learns and those types of things like everybody does. So we implemented a formal one-to-one program for everybody, so that not everybody really wants everybody has a different goal in their career. Some people may just want to have a steady paycheck, I suppose, but a lot of the best, as you know, want to see that there's a path for them forward. And so the one-to-ones were really helpful. We have weekly mini trainings every Monday morning in all of our offices that provide mini training about not usually a technical thing, but something that has to do with what we're about. And then we one of our business partners has set up, since we're structural engineers, and in most of the states where our office is located, they have structural engineer licensure, and so we set up what we call the Path to SE, where it's a formalized training program where they can go and work with their mentor to advance towards getting the licensure they want. So.
Yeah, training's like communication. There's never enough of it. And we got carried away for the first 6 months of this year. We had a ton of training, and it actually impacted productivity. And we were buying lunch at every training thing, so we were buying lunch for everyone like every day of the week. So the second half of the year, we've kind of cut back a little bit. But lunch and learns, internal training. We have people making presentations on either their projects or different issues that they deal with, so the whole company knows what's going on different things. I give what we call the PWGC 101 course periodically for new employees. Just what's the company all about? What's our goal? What's our mission? What's our values? How we treat people within the organization, how we treat clients, that type of thing. So we keep trying to do it over and over again. And I hope some of it sinks in,
Yeah, when Paul said about it's like communication, you can never have enough of it. So on our surveys, I think the same person writes every year more training. That's all he writes, more training. It's if Mark was here, he'd say more bacon. You can't have enough of that. And I come from the Army background where everybody kind of got the same training, but I think that training has to be very individualistic, and unfortunately, when they're busy, I think employees, they want more training, but yet they don't have, I like that phrase, path to SE or whatever. I think you got to kind of coach them and mentor them along. Our mentorship program kind of helps that with coaching and mentoring employees as to, okay, if this is the path where you want to go, or if this is where you want to go, here's the path to get there. Because although they want training, that sometimes, I always stand up in front of the group at these annual meetings and say, we have never turned down a training request that's reasonable. And we've never turned down a training request. But a lot of times employees don't know what they want. So, kind of helping, coaching them along, and then also incentivizing them again. So a lot of our people in our firm are technicians, so they're in the field and they have certain certifications for structural concrete or special inspections and all that. So if they we communicate that if you get certified in these things, you get a $500 or $1,000 spot bonus, and it's amazing how the number of accredited people went up, which makes us more valuable to our clients. Because now we have, people that are maybe, certified in multi things. The client doesn't have to pay for, different special inspectors. We have one person that can do all that. So it kind of feeds on itself. But, that incentivizing people, really works. I think I read somewhere that, people do almost anything as long as it's like more than $10. For a $10 gift card, that takes that gets people's attention. For $500 or $1,000, trust me, they're gonna try and go and get that certification. Where if you're just telling them, yeah, it's good for you in your career, especially a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old, it's just kind of goes one ear and out the other. So don't underestimate some of these incentive programs.
We've really tried to focus on the overall education of a person. So not just the technical training. I think we do a pretty good job at that. But through our wellness initiatives, then we have tried to offer more. And really the focus has been on reading, which sounds pretty simple. But we have created, each office has a book swap. And so that's also given opportunity for somebody in that office to be seen as a leader doing something else. So they have to set all the book swap up, facilitate that whole thing, send out the information. And so that's also let us see like those lower level people, giving them a different opportunity to be seen in front of their peers. And then the other thing is we've created a leadership book list. And so our leaders are reading different things, and we put that on the internet, and they make comments. They send it out. Like a lot of times they'll send a note, send this book with a personal note to an employee. And that means a lot to them. But we've also seen incentivizing those employees to read, too, and giving them points back to our wellness program, which gives them more of a discount on their health insurance, gets them reading different things, and we've got a really positive result of that over the last year.
Yes.
So we work in an industry that requires extraordinary effort a lot of times, and it also has extraordinary opportunities, but it's not only important to capture the hearts and minds of our team, but also it's important to somehow make a connection with that spouse back home. I'm looking for, and also that will influence a person's willingness to go somewhere else or willingness to not go somewhere else. So I'm just curious about any creative ways you all, it kind of goes in the communications line, really. How do you connect in creative ways with the spouse or show how can the spouse feel like, man, I am so glad that my husband or my wife works there?
We have 2 parties a year, a Christmas party and a summer event. No clients, just employees and spouses. So we encourage them to come. You get to know the names of the spouses, and you get to chat with them about their children, about what they're doing, what their careers are. So you get a pretty good relationship with the spouses as well as the individual employees. We also have other events during the year that are less organized, but we run as a corporate challenge running race that everyone's been using as like their corporate summer picnic, but so we have people there, and we actually run the race. As far as physically run it, we don't manage it. And they bring their wife there, they bring their children, they are involved in the event. So we try and do things that are family friendly, and so I get to know the children, and it becomes more of a family atmosphere, and it's really helpful.
Yeah, we do something very similar. One of the comments that come out of the best place to work surveys is that this is a very family-centered company, which is very refreshing, because I think when you do employ people and I think the younger generations are placing even more and more emphasis on their families. So similar to Paul, we engage employees twice a year with events, a picnic, and then a Christmas party or holiday party, and we'll pay for people to fly in from the neighbor islands to come to Oahu for that, and all expenses, are covered for that, which I think the employees appreciate. And we also engage the families in our quarterly wellness events. So they're invited to come for hikes or Orange Therapy Challenge, or whatever the different events is, so that allows additional time to engage the families. And then we allow our employees a certain amount of money every year for wellness, and they can use it for their families and their spouses too. So, and one of the other comments that comes out in these surveys is, the owners and the principals of the company know my wife's name, my kids' names, and all that, and don't think that that influences them in a very positive way. It's like I think the one speaker was saying today is, just go out and talk to people at these events and getting to know them. It's a very strong incentive for them to stay, and they really feel that, not only the employee is engaged, but so is the family.
Just one thing that we allow a lot of children in our office. So, if for some reason there's a problem with daycare or something like that, they're bringing the kids in the office a lot of the times. And so you get to know them and you get to meet them, and, so it builds a much stronger relationship that you know the names of the kids and what they're doing, and, they're playing soccer this week or whatever.
I just say amen to the family activities. I think that's a great thing, and you should all do that. You probably are. One thing that we have found to be really helpful, when I graduated from college, I was married, and so my wife came with me on the recruiting trip to Sin City. I grew up in Salt Lake City area, and I here we are going to Sin City and, to corrupt myself and her. And so it was good that she came with me so that she could see that actually it was a pretty good place to live. And so one thing that we've tried to do, of course you have to be careful because you can't, one of the questions recruiting, you can't ask if you're married, but if we know that they are, we'll invite them to bring their spouse, because I think it's important for their spouse to come and feel welcome, get to know the company, get to know the area. And so right off the bat, they realize it's a place that is welcoming to them.
Oh, a lot of questions. Okay. We'll start
I just have a follow-up.
Okay.
For order. Because the larger firms, of course, including spouses, exponentially higher costs to have those. So you're the larger firms in general. What is your firm do?
We do that too. We do that too. We very similar to these guys. We have multiple events. There is a budget. I usually ignore it, but there is a budget. But we also do a lot of sports things, and like sponsoring 5Ks, and then we pay for our families to go participate. So like this summer we did one, our first one at Garver at Little Rock, and paid for all the families who wanted to for their registrations. So that gave that money to a good cause, and we try to get those families out there to do it together.
Okay.
I heard a couple of y'all say that you sort of gauge the benefits that you provide and make adjustments. Do you ever make adjustments down? And specifically, one thing we did, and we still kind of get comments every now and then, although I feel like we did it for the right reasons, is we took away overtime. I didn't like the way it was operating. We took it away. A lot of engineering firms offer overtime. So I guess two questions. One, have you ever taken away a benefit? And how'd that go? And then two, do you guys offer or pay overtime? And then one more thing. This one's simple. A couple of y'all mentioned maternity, paternity leave. Can you provide specifics on what you actually provide? Because when we looked through ours wide comments, that was in there 2 or 3 times, and it caught me off guard. I didn't realize it was a thing. Well, I realized maternity leave was, but paternity leave, I didn't realize that was a thing people were expecting, but they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we, what we had been doing was for our paternity and maternity leave was that, and if there's HR people in the room, y'all correct me because this is going to be a little bit off, but you have that 7-day waiting period before your short-term disability kicks in, and then, so we weren't paying for that. I mean, that was just, you're taking vacation time or you're taking sick time or whatever. And so basically we just said, okay, we're gonna pay you for that week, and so outright. So you're not taking time off. It's not going against your sick or vacation time. We do pay overtime. So we pay all of our staff. So administrative staff, technical staff is all paid overtime, either straight time or time and a half. And we use that in recruiting big time because we work, as I'm sure we all do, we put in a whole lot of hours. So even on the offer letters, we will estimate how much overtime you think you're going to have. So we can say, because, I didn't answer this salary question earlier. We know we're not that competitive. I mean, you're going to go next door and get paid somewhere else, but we also push those benefits so hard because we don't focus on that one number, but overtime is a big part of that package. And so off the bat, we'll say, hey, we think you're probably going to work 5 hours of overtime, even if it's, my web developer. Hey, on average, you may work, 2 hours of overtime. And so go ahead and put that in there. And when I'm doing the offer to them, I sell that hard and say, hey, not going to lie that you're not going to work overtime, but this is a guess just so you know where you're going to be financially. I can't answer what you've taken away.
Okay, so I'll try and answer the 3 parts. So on paternity and maternity, Hawaii has a mandatory temporary disability that the employer pays for at least half, and you can make the employee pay for their half. We just pay for the whole thing, but there is the 7-day waiting period, and we haven't waived that, but that's kind of interesting. Maybe I'll go back and look at that. We haven't had, that hasn't really come up as an issue. On the paternity side, I don't know, we're not compensating people for that, because I don't think that would qualify as temporary disability. So we're not really doing anything on that. It hasn't come up as an issue. On the overtime, that is something that we've changed recently. Before, a lot of the field personnel that we have, we did pay overtime. A lot of the office staff, the designers, we were not. And we changed that in the last year because it was kind of coming up that there was an issue there. We tried to cover it in bonuses and things like that, but it gets really difficult sometimes to remember, what happened 6 months ago. We pay bonuses twice a year. So we kind of changed a little bit on that. And then the only people who really aren't eligible for those would be like principals and senior associates. So the top 2 levels are not. I mean, they're just expected to work the 50, 60 hours a week. And then, with those people? No. Well, that's a good question. We kind of did a little bit, but they're probably doing better with the overtime than they were without it before. And that issue has seemed to kind of evaporate now. With respect to taking away benefits, the only thing I can think of, because that's never a good thing, even during the recession, we didn't, make people pay for more health care, and anything, was 20 years ago, over 25 years ago. This was soon after I joined the firm. We used to have sick leave and vacation, and I suggested that we just combine the two into PTO. And that was communicated that, hey, instead of having 2 weeks vacation, now you really have 3, because a lot of people were accruing a bunch of sick leave. And probably 90% of the people saw that as a positive. Oh, I get another week vacation. And then there was that 10% that said, hey, you're taking away the sick leave. But those were the people that, they were probably abusing it anyway. So some people saw that as, taking something away. But since then, we really haven't been. Knock on wood, hopefully we can continue that.
Yeah, maternity, paternity, we don't have anything for paternity. You just take your PTO time, and we obviously understand you should take, we're not going to say, you can't take the time off, but they got to take it out of their PTO. For maternity, again, we don't pay anything for it. It's out of your PTO. We're very flexible on, if you want to take an extra month, go extra, take an extra. You're not getting paid for it, but we're flexible on that time and letting people come back. We've got people who came back earlier. We just had a person who had premature twins, and actually 2 weeks after she gave birth, and one was still in the hospital, she was working for a couple of weeks, and then she decided, well, maybe I should take a little bit of time. So we said, okay, go ahead. I think she took 3 or 4 weeks, and then she just came back. It was a working regular time, so we just give them the time off, and we're flexible. And a lot of people had to put in a lot of extra time because she wasn't around, because she was in the accounting group. Overtime, our first level people, so anyone right out of school, is essentially we put them on hourly, so they get time and a half for their overtime. Once you get put on salary, if it's billable, we'll pay you straight time. If it's not billable, we don't pay it. We feel if we get paid for it, then you should get paid for it. And the other stuff, the guys on the top, once in a blue moon, you get an hour or 2 of overtime pay. Other than that, we're working a lot of hours and on our own. So, taking things away, all I can say is, whenever you change anything, in their minds, you're taking something away. So, we would change the health, periodically just to keep within reason. The health insurance would come in at like a 15% increase, and we'd change it a little bit to get it down to 6 or 8, and people would always feel you're still taking it away from them. That's kind of, you got to bite the bullet on that, and they're not going to be happy all the time.
Yeah, I think on normal times, I don't know how you could take stuff away without destroying morale or motivation. Our offices were all located in the epicenter of the Great Recession, so to survive, we, besides laying off 80% of our staff, we reduced pay and benefits, but I can't imagine that going well other than that. people that remained were happy to have a job then. I mentioned that we added paternity, or we call it paid family leave, because we realized that we were behind the curve on that. It's not much, and it's not like we have people having babies all the time anyway, but it means a lot to those that do. So it's really a low cost benefit that can mean a lot to some key people if they're having kids. And then what was the last one? Overtime. Oh. We're taking baby steps. We do 3 days. It's 3 days more than they had. As far as overtime, my personal philosophy is I want people to focus on the results and not on the activity. It's not a badge of courage to work 70 hours in a week. I'd rather you get everything done in 40 hours and go home and see your family and have a life. So we only pay overtime to those people that we have to. If they're exempt, then they're on salary. But what we do to incentivize people to get things done is we have a profit sharing plan that's tied in a way that they're more than happy to do what they need to do to get the job done, because they know that they're going to meet their profit sharing goals. So that's what we do.
Did you still have a question? Yeah,
Thanks. Kind of goes maybe with taking away benefit, but you all mentioned listening to your employees through the results from the survey. So maybe a different spin of not taking it away, but not adding a benefit that the employees are perceiving as a benefit. Maybe even analyzed it and realized it's not what's best for you as a company. And I'm particularly familiar, Brian, in your case, you're in the civil engineering category, same as we are, and you've been at the top, for a lot of years. So how do the employee expectation now, I'm sure, is, we're this great place to work, we're going to have all this nice stuff. When they ask for that nap room and you tell them no, how do you keep that morale where, yeah, we're still the best place to work, even though they're not listening to me in this case?
Actually, I say hell no. Yeah, that's a great question, because on those surveys you'll get what we've tried, and because we're an ESOP company, maybe we're a little bit different. So one of our mantras is "we, not me," and that has been such a powerful effect over the last 6-7 years that now the employees are starting to say it. And when these kind of things come up, for example, in the survey, why can't we have fully paid medical after retirement? In other words, like the old U.S. Steel or some of the unions, and that's what bankrupts people. That's an unsustainable benefit. Or the sick leave. Why can't we have 2 more weeks of sick leave? And once again, so I put it out there to all the employees and say, this is what we heard, and we're not going to do that because we're an employee-owned company now. First of all, I say, is that a we statement? And no, it's not. So I don't want to embarrass any employees. They're all anonymous anyway. But when 99 or 95% of the people are understand that culture, that ownership culture, that ownership thinking, it's very easy to kind of disregard, or not disregard, but have people understand that that's not something that the group wants. That may be just that particular individual. The retiree, obviously the guy is 65 or woman is ready for retirement, but that's just not sustainable. And oh, by the way, why would you ever want to pay for somebody that's left us? I mean, they're not doing anything for us anymore. That's not helping the company. So when you get that mindset of ownership, an ownership culture, it's very easy to get those 99% of the people on your side. And when you explain, for 2 more weeks of sick leave, okay, well, that's 2 more weeks that you're going to be gone, potentially. That's going to affect, the profitability of the company, which, affects then, the ultimate share price of your ESOP shares. Is that really something that you want? Is that good for the rest of us? So that message now, I don't even have to say it anymore. But I do. Those still. And I think it's mostly the new people. The why. We had this before, and they don't understand. The kind of culture we're indoctrinating them. But But yeah, that's been very, very helpful to help communicate to people that, that's a very selfish way to look at things. It's not a team thing, and we're all about teamwork. It's one of our values, and as long as you kind of, communicate those values back to the employees, they get it.
We've got time for one more. All right. Yeah, we'll
Good deal.
Oh,
It doesn't matter.
either one.
Sure, thank you. In your benefit programs, given younger workers, I won't say the M word, but that was brought up here earlier, but given the high cost of college and that many of your younger workers are dealing with, have you, in your benefits program, dealt with anything? I know another Zweig seminar I went to said a lot of companies are creating mechanisms to help with payback of student loans or anything. Do any of you have those programs? And if you do, what are you doing with that benefit?
We do have tuition reimbursement. So if you're pursuing something while you're a Garver employee, and we have had probably the last year a small handful, half a dozen of people that were maybe in a technician role and went and pursued their PE. And so we then set up a program where they have to work out their schedule. They still have to be accountable for their 40 hours. But then I think it's like 25%. So they go that semester, and then we don't start paying them back, I think, for a whole year. That could be a little bit off, but something to that. So really, it's more of like you're committing to us for 4 years because we're not going to pay you back immediately.
Yeah, well, maybe two parts of that. So we do a tuition reimbursement program also when you're an employee, and it's geared toward, what the one semester cost of tuition at the State University of Hawaii is, $4,000 a year. And there is, if you leave, within 2 years after that, then you got to pay us back. But I think you're asking about kids out of school going back and paying off their student loans, right? Yeah, and I just starting to hear this. I went to I forget, it was another conference or something, and someone asked us, are we doing that? And I was totally taken aback because I had not heard that. It's almost like a signing bonus. So we're not a professional sports team. But it's apparently something that other firms are doing, and we're not doing it yet, but that's something that kind of hit me as, hey, maybe we need to look at this. Rather than that, what we've been doing is kind of what Mark said at the previous panel. We're really concentrating on the interns and trying to build, get interns into the company. I think we had 7 or 8 this year, and trying to grow that bench strength so you don't, necessarily have that having to recruit them and pay for their college, as a form of bringing them on. We want to kind of grow them from when they're sophomores or juniors or something like that. But I have heard the same thing. Other firms are starting to do it now, given the competitive nature. But I don't know if you guys are paying for it.
No, I've heard it as well, and there are, I think, major financial companies in New York City are, paying off people's student loans, and they're paying them $120,000 a year too, which is not even close to what we're going to do. But it's something that's got to be on your radar. You got to say, or do you, is it that going to turn the table for someone who's really good, and you want to say, look, I want to give you a signing bonus, and I expect you to pay off your student loan. My personal experience with giving money to my kids to pay off student loans is they don't pay off student loans because it's the lowest rate that they've got. So they pay off other higher rate, either credit card or part of their mortgage or something like that. So student loans are pretty good rates. Tuition reimbursement, we do that. It's got to be pre-approved. We pay up to, I think it's based upon your grade. So I think if you get an A, you get like 80. We pay up 80% of it. B is like a 60%, and C is like 40%. And we don't tie it into the local college, so we get killed when someone goes to a private university. Goes to NYU or something like that, where it's huge tuition as opposed to the state school. But that's we bite the bullet on that. We do pay that, and again, so the spring class that they take that's done in May, we won't pay it till Christmas time. So they've got to show that they're going to be around for a while. They're just not going to quit in July after they're just finishing the course and we paid them off in June. So that's how we do it.
No. I hope the world never comes to that. We do sometimes assist somebody who maybe is taking a class at a university that will benefit them and us. But we're an engineering firm, not an education firm, so we'll provide training, but they need to get their education before they come work for us.
You know, out of curiosity, any firms in the audience doing that? So you are, and you're paying to help them pay off their student loans. On certain ones. No, is there a dollar cap on it, or? No.
We negotiate.
No. Yeah, see that, I'd like that plan. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And you heard what I told you before. We actually, so it is changing, and I respect all of you guys. Totally disagree. You got to get on the ball with this because, first of all, number one, average student coming out of school, $35K in debt. It's real, folks. That's why the M word isn't buying homes, because they've got too much student loans. So if you, as an entity, says, hey, you know what? I know this is breaking your back. I'm going to come in and I'm going to help you out. All of a sudden, you become their savior. Now, doesn't mean that I'm not suggesting you go out and spend $35K on their student loans and then you're stuck holding the bag. It's something that there's a recapture provision and you set it out over time. It is a retention tool. You can pay Chad and John and I $25 or $30K to go find you somebody, but you can also pay somebody $5K a year over 5 years or over 4 years, and before you know it, they've been with you for a while. Now they love you because you've helped them solve a huge problem that they all have, and then it becomes a whole different thought process. Now, let me take it a step further. There are companies out there that are doing this, and they do it all for you. So you're not sitting there having to have your accounting firm take their time to create all of this. Gratify is one program out there that does it. I've actually already encouraged and had some design firms go to Gratify to set up a program for themselves internally to pay a portion of it. PwC, I mean, there's several dozen firms. Obviously, there are Fortune 500 firms and others that are already doing this on a regular basis. It is going to become a regular option and a huge retention tool across the industry. So in order to compete, as we want to do in the design space, we have to get ahead of the curve and start thinking about other creative ways to create retention tools and not necessarily always have to pay a recruiter or anything, heaven forbid, right? But to create opportunities to give people some of their life back. And one way that you can do that is by helping them out with their student loan debt. And I would venture to say it's not so much, oh my God, I'm going to pay this money and I'll never see it back. It can measure the return on investment over a period of time. And no one's ever suggesting that you put out all this money up front, but there are tools in place that you can get right now that actually work. And as soon as Congress passes the bill that will take away the tax issue, then it will become even easier to do. So, it's just something to consider.
All right, thanks, Randy. Unfortunately, I wish we could keep going, but we're going to get kicked out here because we've got the reception in this room at 5:30, so we got to get everything set up. But I really do want to thank Laura and Brian and Paul and Brent for being on this panel and giving us some insight. So why don't we give them a quick round of applause? If you have any questions for them, I mean, like I said, we have the reception in here at 5:30. Would love to see everyone here. Or if you have any questions for me, feel free to email or call anytime. If you have any questions about the best firms to work for data, might take me a minute because you saw 1.6 million data points, so it might take me a quick minute to get back to you, but I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. But thank you all for being here, and we'll see you at the reception.
Thanks for tuning in to this Zweig Letter podcast episode. If you want more wisdom and inspiration, in addition to information about M&A, strategic planning, HR, and marketing your firm. Subscribe now to the digital version of the Zweig Letter free of charge. Just visit thezweigletter.com/subscribe and leave your email address. Your free subscription will begin immediately.